already had discussion on it. Did you have any questions about the minutes?
Do we want to analyze the spelling and grammatical things or not worry about it? I say we're good.
Okay, so,
I say it's got so much, it covers a lot of information.
Yeah.
Seems pretty comprehensive. I just like to see it done and move on.
I do too.
I do have these Teresa needed filled out.
Thank you.
so Lisa, did you have any questions on the minutes?
Thank you.
Did you-
Just if that Cassandra ever got her water problem taken care of.
That what?
That Cassandra girl that couldn't figure out why she has a sheriff but can't get any water.
Yeah?
Did she ever get it figured out? Do we know? I talked to the guy that I know, but he's like, I don't know.
That guy you know.
What about the ditch that was sloughing? Were you able to help out with that at all?
I went by. I couldn't figure out exactly where it was. Like
Where the fence is tipping in?
Yeah.
The problem is, Hooper City really doesn't have any, we don't own any easements, it's not our ditch. We don't, homeowner owns one side, the private owner owns the other side. I don't know that there's,
So we didn't do it, we weren't able to help at all?
well, we haven't figured out a way to help. I mean, it would be a $300,000 project if they were going to pipe it. So, I don't know what they'll figure out.
I just kind of drove by
These
it
were
and
covered in
tried to
there.
see, but
So,
But Brad, I don't know, I didn't hear that anyone was not coming. Brad's here.
Specifically.
I know he and Jared went up and met with her. So he can probably give a little better report.
yeah, I mean, that's basically all I was on the minutes. I was just like, well, I wonder if the people actually got their answers or what was happening there.
Any questions on the March and April financials? That's a pretty thick,
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
numbers to
there's
go
a lot of
through.
financials, yeah.
That's a lot, but the good thing is that it is the result of someone else looking at it. You know, Nicole comes through and does kind of a mini audit every month, but they just put two together for this meeting. Did anyone hear any response from our reverence last meeting at all from anybody? I mean, I thought it was really interesting for us here.
I thought it was great. I thought it was very great.
They don't do it.
I think we ought to reach out more often.
I didn't ask that, but you know,
Oh,
I figured one.
well, we have all the against coach tonight.
Okay, but we're too happy to. So we just kind of, our work week session here, just, minutes seem to look okay, the financials seem to look okay. Any other things we brought up about, that fence?
One more thing.
Another one.
Oh, yeah, no.
Did somebody take a look at that? Somebody
Yeah,
did?
well, we went and looked at several times.
This is
But
planning
right off, so
commissioner,
we're
is this
not
okay?
sure. The problem
Okay.
is, there's no city easement, private on the one side, the homeowners on the other side.
So were we able to tell her who she should
I
contact?
don't know, we'll have to, when Brad comes, I think he can probably give
Is
us
this
a
the one
report. I don't know that she came out and visited
Decided
with him,
in the
but,
Meyer
anyway.
division. Is
I think
HB.
he'll give us a,
She's gonna lose her fence, actually.
Yeah.
eventually she will,
I don't know.
yeah.
I
Got
think
it
so.
right here.
Which it seems like, as a city, at least I could do the right contact.
So,
There should be
Yes,
one
it
yourself.
is. Yes, it is.
it's what?
That's what they cited.
Mayor, I have a question.
Okay,
So I'm thinking,
talk about this instead of on your agenda, and then you can get out of here earlier. But with the last legislative session, they passed the new planning commissioner training, House Bill 409. And I know this is for the planning commission, but I wanted to bring it to your guys' attention, maybe something you may want to do to take on some extra training, but the state now is requiring I believe it's 6 hours of training. 1 hour of formal training needs to be done before any party can vote. So when we've got new planning commission members coming in, I did take a look at a few trainings that they've talked about that are open right now if you guys wanted a refresher course. But the luau is doing their land use 101 training, how to prepare for development in a small town. That's actually an online video for free, and that's the Utah League City and Town. The land use 101 is $10. I'm sure that's a training you can go to. They broadcast that. I believe the next city coming up is Syracuse. But that's actually a really good training to go to. I've done that a couple times, and each time I learned something new. They do have online, the Utah League City and Town for free is like power and duties, and talks about everything kind of that the planning commission is doing and how they interact with you guys as city council and what they've got to do there. So if you need any ideas for training, if you want to do some training, I thought it would be something great for you guys to do as well. Just, you know, the state's forcing the planning commissions, and so they want, just thought maybe.
Is there a deadline?
Theirs is within the year. They've got to complete that. And each year they've got to go through this training. I thought it was quite interesting that they mandated that and kind of changed that. I think it's a great thing. You know, the planning commission does a lot with land use, more so than city council, so I thought it was great for them to do this. But these were just some of the ideas. If you guys need any help with any trainings, I think it'd be awesome, especially like some of the ones you go to are a lot of fun. And I learned a lot. And
So did you say when the one in Syracuse was?
I can look it up. I think it's coming up in June.
So is there a chance we could have you just make us a list of these trainings?
Yeah.
That you've looked up, and so we
Yeah.
have the information on how to
Yeah, and I can send the
look them
link.
up and stuff.
Some of them that I thought were really good for a city council would be how to prepare for development in a small town, and that's an online video. I actually worked with the guy that did that presentation. Amazing developer, knows a lot of his stuff, and that's actually a really good one to watch. And then I thought ordinance development, where you're going to be voting on a lot of new ordinances coming up with the general plan. I think that's a good one, and I can put the link for that, where to watch it, and then just Land Use 101, I can give you the dates and where to go for that. That one's great. And then they do have a small clip of basically all the new land use legislation I can send you. It's a presentation that Will Summercorn did out of Salt Lake County. That's a really good one. I can send you, it's got everything kind of updated, and that includes like the new building inspection rules, that includes the ADUs, a bunch of other stuff that they've actually implemented in for lower income housing and stuff like that cities need to implement. So great stuff. I can email you and I'll send you this, but I thought you'd want to know what they have to do, and we'll get you guys doing the same and get you caught up.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
So, do you know if that fraud training is, do we have to do that every year, the fraud triangle training that we,
Not that I saw,
okay.
but I'll double check into that.
That's just something I know that we were reminded of quite often last year until we got it done. So.
Yeah, I will take a look into that one. They didn't really specify
Okay.
a alive for that one, but I'll take a look into that.
Do you want me to turn them on?
Are those ones that you just email me and then I
Say mine.
So, well, Brad, now that you're here, the question kind of came up about,
The ladies' fence.
yes, Woodward, is that her last name? Tracy Woodward?
Yeah.
Maybe you could give us a little report.
I met down there with,
links to the videos.
Oh,
Is that
sent me your email.
I met with Jared on Tuesday down there, because I know that he's gonna be the guy that knows about backhoes and moving dirt and all that stuff, and it's not good. Because what's gonna have to happen is all those, on the Christensen side of that ditch bank are all those Russian olives, and they're thick. He says those have all got to come out and be hauled off. He says they can't just reach over there and grab dirt in between the trees. So it's not going to be an easy fix. So he was looking into what that was going to cost to have that done, so we could possibly, he's brainstorming some ideas, but that's not looking good.
But isn't it the responsibility of the person that owns that field to maintain that ditch?
It's not their ditch.
Whose ditch is it?
The county dug it.
County
Dug it
Right.
long before Kelly Christensen was alive. So we're thinking it's at least 60 years old. So the problem is the ditch is owned by nobody. The county dug it. It's on Christensen's land. It's a buffer to that subdivision, but nobody actually owns the ditch. Even though it's on their property, but the Christiansens say, well, it's not our ditch, we didn't dig it, and nobody even claims water in it, by the way.
So if it gets filled in, no one will worry the water goes away?
Well, the problem is, we talked about that, and then that's when everybody started really squawking, because Christiansens are saying if we dam that off, because I just said, just give me this, originally, it says, hey, just send me some dirt down there, and just dam that thing off, and then Kelly's going, yeah, and then it's gonna all back up into our property. It's the tailwater they turn out on there.
So they're not using the water.
Oh, well, I know. Well, that's the problem. But they say, if we could find out, I would like just to. The other thing is they were claiming that Woodwards haven't always lived there, but Howard Klein on that corner has always lived there. He claimed when they put that in there to pass the perk test, they rerouted that water. That was bone dry for about 2 months, so they could pass the perk test.
That's nice.
So Howard's saying, why can't we just reroute that water wherever it went for the perk test? Why can't we do that? I mean, if there was no water in there, it would actually possibly save that. I mean, the fence is going to fall in, is the problem. I mean,
Yeah, it is.
the fence is going to fall in. And because I just talked to Howard this week too, and I had just said, well, we're going to sue somebody. Who are you going to sue, Howard? Who are you going to sue? I mean, it's a ditch that nobody claims is on somebody else's property.
But if the Christiansens are benefiting from it being there, then aren't they responsible for it?
They're not really saying they're benefited from being there. It's not has regular water in it. They turn water out, tell water into it. So
Yeah, it's not an irrigation ditch, it's a drain ditch.
it's just a drain ditch.
And it's deep, and really, there's always a little bit of water in
Yeah,
it, just
yeah.
groundwater.
In fact, the day we were in there was a trickle of water, maybe an inch in the bottom there. But there's days they send me pictures, and it's roaring down through there. It's 3 feet deep. But it's really random. It's not like So I don't know. It's not an easy fix. Jared's scratching his head, just going, "Yeah, we can do it." But all those trees have got to be tore out and hauled away, because you can't just tear them out and leave more on Christensen's property that stand farms. So I don't know.
Not a cheap, easy fix.
There's not an easy fix, and you can't pipe it because you have to have it engineered, right? So that was the other thing. Let's put some pipe in there and just put dirt over the top of it. Well, that has to be engineered. So I mean, that's probably what $20,000-$30,000 worth of work.
Whose property is it, did we decide?
It's on Christensen's land, so
Shouldn't they offer? Guess
Well, I don't know what I couldn't hear you right. But,
Shouldn't they offer to assist if it's on their land? I mean,
well, I don't think they care.
They don't care.
That's what I mean.
It's
You know,
not.
they don't
So
care.
they
It's,
don't care.
it's on the back of their property, and
Yeah.
they did not dig the
So
ditch.
tell Howard Klein to sue the Christiansons.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so if I have a tree on my property, and my tree's hurting the property next to me,
Right,
and I don't care,
and it causes
and
damage.
it causes damage, then I'm liable for the damage, no?
Yeah, but
Yes.
Christensen's, I think, could argue the only reason those trees are there is because
I mean, if you said
they're
all
lining
kinds
the
of
ditch that they
Yeah,
didn't
and
dig.
also what you're saying is if you block it off and it backs the water up, then they're benefiting from it.
Then there's
The frustrating the deal about is that Tracy Woodward is extremely aggressive. Last year, this has been going on for a year now. She talked to every single person. Wilson Irrigation says it's not their water. She talked to every single person. She talked to the county. Oh yeah, I can see that ditch. Yep. I don't know. We didn't dig it. We have no. And then come all the way back around, and the county says we dug the ditch after a year. So that's the frustrating part.
Well, I think
You know?
I think it's been quite a few years. How long has Tracy lived there? I think
Well, it's been a while, but they've been working hard on it for a year because I think we met down there last spring, a year ago this spring. So
concrete truck up and just fill it in.
we could just put dirt in it, but it's going to back up. I would like to, if it can be turned out, or put another head gate in there where it turns down another direction. It would at least save something.
Yeah, I think the best way to appreciate what Brad's explaining is just go look at
And
it.
it's just
Just
yeah.
to go
It's
over
a
there
mess.
and just
Well,
go see what it's like.
Every single person's gone down there, looks at it, and goes, "Yeah, fence is going to fall in."
Right.
Every single person, they just kind of shrug their shoulders and let, yeah, sure enough. I mean, the fence post, the concrete on the bottom of the fence post is showing on like 3 of the fence posts.
So it can fall.
It's already tipping, and you know, the more water that goes down the ditch, the more it erodes out. And it's only those 2 houses that goes all the way to 5500 South. But somebody's dug that out along the way between those 2 houses. It turns the corner and comes in there.
What's the address? Do you have an approximate?
It's up there by,
It's on,
What's the address, mailman?
it's on 5350 South, at the dead end.
These
You know that catch basin is there?
I don't know. They said that the other day that everybody was talking about Warshaw, and I was like,
Yeah.
Sorry, actually, that's 5300, no.
The
5300.
last subdivision before you get to
Yeah.
4700.
5300.
Turn into that and go to the street.
Call me. I'll take you down there.
4926 West, 5300 South.
It's on a dead end where that catch basin is. Those 2 houses between the dead end and the catch basin is. And it's only been dredged out right there. All the rest of it's got like a 3-foot buffer on the back of
we
the
have a
fence.
friend that lives
Which
on that north-south.
house?
Well, it's the 2 houses. It's actually Klein's. Yeah.
I know it's right there somewhere.
Right, it's right there. It's right there. See, that's that catch basin right there. It's these 2 houses right there. So the canal comes down right there and turns, and it's been dredged out between these 2 houses, all the way the rest of the way down to 5500. Yeah, exactly. But if you want to call, I'll take you down there. I'm friends
I don't
with
even know where you live. So, like, when people are
That's in the next subdivision.
I live with the small ones. Just keep going until the one must get really small. Exactly.
He's in the subdivision, the next one up.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
Brad, you know where I live?
No.
So
I actually knew where you lived, but you told me you didn't know where I lived, so I said, I don't know.
So this is funny, and I bet Lisa probably felt similar. Where I live was East Hooper, if it was Hooper at all.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't, like the second one was not.
Yeah, that was the other part.
But if it's,
That was the other part.
anyway, if you want to, I'd love to
Let's
walk
just
you
take a
down.
minute. Reed will explain about an annexation request that we've had, and I think Brad, maybe you and Jared talked a little bit about that too, right?
Yeah, we did.
Anyway.
First, to bring conclusion to the other topic, there's no easy answer because the water that goes into those ditches are created upstream somewhere, and so
Yeah.
they're the ones that technically have the obligation to prevent flooding. But how do you identify who they are and how do you make them do it? So it's not an easy question.
No.
We've had 2 requests that have come through Roy, that there are people that are petitioning Roy to take property out of Hooper and move it into Roy. It's areas kind of by 4300 West, just west of 4300. We've kind of informally determined 4300 as like the line between Roy and Hooper, although it's not in stone because there are some that segment on both sides. But to aggravate the problem would be maybe not a good idea. But at any rate, they made a request to Roy, and they will be requesting that you consider allowing them to take their property out of Hooper and put it into Roy, because I suspect they get a better deal on development there, more lots, maybe more readily accessible.
That's south of 5500 then, over by Russell Park.
South.
Okay, towards the golf course.
So you may get individual contacts, you may have them come here, it's hard to know just what to do.
Didn't we have, it seems like 2 or 3 years ago, we had someone come in that was trying to annex down to Hooper from Roy because better livestock options. In that same area, it seemed like. I don't know, but it seemed like they were, because we have better livestock issues than Roy did, so they were trying to do the reverse thing.
Well, we responded and said there's been a lot of, not only time spent, but money spent in trying to get a good, clean boundary along there, along 4300 West. Because there was some ground that was east of that, but I think we did move over into Roy.
Yeah.
And
So where Jones is owned up there, yeah.
Oh, you know what?
That's what you're talking about. Where Jones is, that
They
was
were
it.
upset because it was changing their
Yeah,
livestock, I believe.
Yeah.
So anyway, we responded and said we've done that, and so right today, we're not in favor of annexing that, and especially after hearing about what they did in your neighborhood there, Brad,
Yeah.
with that piece of property that is part of Roy that jogs down on 4300 West. So,
Yeah, it's been approved for apartments, so, by Roy City.
and we did,
On the west side of 4300?
yeah, there's one,
There's a little triangle piece there,
Northwest corner.
northwest corner from the
So what
slope.
that does, of course, is get all the other property owners saying, oh, well, that's a good idea, I think we'll do the same thing.
Yeah. Well, the Hooper residents in that corner are really, really hot about it, and they should be. So they're really upset. So
they rezoned it from density to very high density.
they rezoned it to high density.
Well, there's actually a very in front of that too, very high density.
Very high density, yeah.
And then they want to use our street, Hooper Street, for an outlet going back to the north. And from what I heard during the presentation, they said that was a county road.
They say that's a county road, that they're hooking into it.
That's
so-
incorrect.
City
No,
road.
it's a Hooper, it's a Hooper cul-de-sac is what it is. It's not a stub street or anything like that, it's just a cul-de-sac.
Yeah, I think the only block they could do at this point is if they can deem that slough to be wetland.
Yeah.
Because that's how they shut down that car wash on the corner. That was on that corner 4300 West and 5500 South, that was going to be a car wash. and-
On the,
Right on the corner, where they ripped down that house.
On the
yes,
north side.
oh, that's what, okay.
That was going to be a car wash, but
Okay.
that
That's the piece we're talking
yeah,
about.
that McReynolds guy, he went to the Army Corps of Engineers and he got that deemed as wetland, the slough. But it's the same slough that we're all the way wrapped around that corner, so
Yeah.
I don't know why it would be wetland on the one corner, not all the way up to 4300, but we'll see. The Planning Commission's already okayed, has already recommended it to be, the zoning to be changed, so it's up to the city council unless there's something happening between now and then. So, Roy City Council.
Well, it is 7 o'clock, so we will close our work session. And we welcome everyone here to our city council meeting for Thursday, May 20th, 2021. And we've asked Councilmember Cox if she would lead us in a pledge of allegiance. And then following that, Councilman Hill will offer our reverence.
Please repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Heavenly Father, we're thankful for the opportunity we had to gather together as a community in our city council meeting this evening. We're thankful for the bounteous circumstances in which we live and which bring us together. We're thankful for our community, thankful for those who live among us, and grateful for the principles which we share. We're thankful for all the bounteous blessings which are around us, and we ask for that continued hand to guide us and lead us and protect us. We ask for blessings of moisture, that the clouds will open and we can receive moisture to lessen our drought that we're going through at this time. We're thankful for the lessening of the pandemic, and we're grateful for the brilliant minds who have created a vaccine to help us overcome the pandemic, and grateful for the reopening of our state and our nation, and for the opportunity to see thy hand in that. We're thankful for all our many blessings. We pray for a good meeting this evening as we discuss the agenda items and help us to come to consensus and agreement with all that we do. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Well, thank you. If you've had a chance to look at the meetings look at our minutes from the last meeting on May 6th, and if there's any corrections or amendments that you think need to be corrected, if not, we would entertain a motion to approve those.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from our May 6th City Council meeting.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, at this time on the agenda, we'll ask council members if there are any conflicts of interest or disclosures that any of you would have with any of the agenda items. Okay, nothing, none, okay. You've also received a copy of the financial report from March and April. Do you have any questions on those? You mentioned earlier that's quite a handful of papers, but it's for 2 months. So if not, we will, well, let's see, we don't even have to approve those if no one has any questions on them. Okay. Okay, at this time on the agenda, we will open it up for citizens' comments. If you have a comment, we would ask that you come up to the microphone, state your name, your address, and then limit your comments to 3 minutes. Oh, excuse me, limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening, Council. My name is Joshua Robert Blake, Marinoni. Live at 5990 West, 5350 South in Hooper. Kind of interesting. I'm going to make a comment on one of the agenda items that we haven't seen yet, the presentation that we're going to watch today. I reviewed the material that was put on the website, and there's a couple things that really bothered me about this presentation that we're going to watch tonight. I understand this isn't an action item, and we're not voting on it or anything like that. It's not an approval or anything like that. And I have nothing against the soccer community. I have anything against all these young men in their uniforms behind me, or anybody that enjoys the sport. What I don't like is when I read that proposal, it seemed like a real candy-coated proposal. We'll give the city 7 acres of land. In response, you let us build houses on 0.15 acre lots. Less than a quarter acre. Less than any acreage required for any of our zoning in Hooper. Sure, we get a park out of it. The park to be maintained by a private organization. Those are pluses. But I can tell you, from what I see, the citizens of this community don't want this type of development. We don't want these tiny lots, these houses on tiny lots. Some of the things in the letter that was submitted to the council Says this would certainly be a benefit to the Hooper families that drive their children long distances to play soccer in another city. I don't play soccer, so I might be ignorant on this topic. But West Haven, Roy, Clearfield, Syracuse, Clinton, very close communities. I shop there every day. That's where we have to go for groceries. I don't think that's considered driving a long distance to play soccer. I understand there's probably tournaments and things like that. They are much further away. We have a bunch of soccer fields here. See kids playing on these soccer fields all the time. We have another park that we don't use for hardly anything. Maybe we could put some soccer fields on that if we needed to. Also says in that letter that this concept is a better advantage to the community to have a park rather than cookie-cutter half-acre lots that eliminate open space. That's a direct quote. I asked why this land was ever requested as a rezone of R2 from R1 if we don't want cookie-cutter half-acre lots. It was requested as a rezone. Part I question most is the part where it says that we have researched a new state law allowing city councils throughout the state to create warranted exceptions. I added this to development agreements because that's what it's talking about when it is in the best interest of the public. Basically using this House bill and development agreement to allow building lots of a tiny nature, 6,600 square feet. I think my front yard is 6,600 square feet. And it's not big enough. But to add this as an exception, so the city council can do this as a legislative matter. I read that as a way to pass up the planning commission, pass up the normal concepts of city government to jam something through, jam these tiny little house lots through. Luckily, in that same law that's not mentioned in this letter is the part that says that can't happen. So that's very good that they wrote that in there. And in the next section, section B3, that says that that can't be used in that way. Makes me wonder when Mr. Buse put that in his proposal, if he had read the entire thing. Once again, I understand that this is a presentation, it's not a proposal, it's not an action, we're not voting on anything today. And I also want to reiterate that the people of this city do not agree with this type of development, no matter how it's candy coated. If I were to come up here and present a different concept where this property stays as a pasture, or we develop it into 1 acre lots, I'll bet you I'd win that argument. Thank you for your time.
My name is Jason Tonioli. I'm at 4988 West, 4900 South. I feel like I kind of started this thing about 3-4 years ago trying to figure out how to get soccer fields. I've been coaching for 14 years now. There is a lack of fields, and I can tell you as a coach, most of the fields that we have to play on, we go out to Weaver County Fairgrounds, we go around here, the fields are not maintained, and there'll be divots, and the kids can hurt themselves on it, and they're not maintained well. I introduced Dale, you and I met, your granddaughter plays on one of our soccer teams, and I was able to introduce you to the UISA group. They created what's called the legacy field fee that basically everybody in the state pays, and all of that money has to go towards fields. As I talked to the UISA state group, they cannot find any, they are like dying to please partner with cities or anybody that has land so they can build these fields. The crazy thing with this is they will build the field, they will pay for all of it, and they will maintain it. And so I don't care where the fields go, but I'd love to have one in my community so I don't have to drive, 20 minutes or 30 minutes to go to games if I can help it. And the same thing for practicing. I practiced with my team and a half for 10 years over Hooper Park. But when it comes to the size of the lots, I live on a 3rd acre lot, so I hope that doesn't mean I'm a lesser person for not having an acre, but I think we keep a really good lawn. My first home was on, I think, a 0.14 acre lot up in Ogden, and we kept that house really nice. And frankly, I'm trying to build a house right now, and the hardest thing for me is the houses are getting so expensive that I don't know, for my kids, there's no way they're going to be able to live in Hooper. So if there was, if it's 1/4 acre, 1/2 acre, 1/3 acre, whatever, or even smaller than that, I'd love to see some opportunities to have houses. But if I'm in your shoes and I've got somebody from the soccer state group that says, here's $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, we want to build these fields and take care of them for you, I'm all for it. The thing I worry most about is all of the houses it seems like we build lots of houses, and yes, there's parks, but do you just want to have houses, or do we want to have like a planned, hey, there's a really nice park here that's going to get maintained, taken care of, and for me, I'd rather have, a couple of small houses that have a backyard on a soccer field, they can come out and have it feel like a big acre lot, but, as a resident, I like acre lots. I like half-acre lots, and I got a lot of people with third and quarter-acre lots that I think are great too, as long as people take care of it. So, all I would request is, as you guys are approving this, please don't pass up on opportunities to have somebody else come in and basically pay for these fields and take care of them. So there's really no, I don't know how it can go wrong. I've been down. There's 14 fields right now. Most of the soccer group is at State Cup.
I didn't know what I'm supposed to do.
Okay,
I just
wait a
went
minute now.
down.
I'm not sure how this works, so I came here on my birthday to do this. It's not where I want to be on my birthday, but I feel like I started it. I want to get it going. I'd love to see some soccer fields. Thanks.
If I go over to say, hey, dummy.
Okay.
Hey, dummy. They're not.
Sign up, a little embarrassing. What was that?
Grateful for the opportunity to be here. In full disclosure, I'm not a Hooper resident. I did marry somebody from Hooper, and I do have ties here for the past 28 years. My in-laws live just down the street. My name's Rhett Bonham. I'm here representing Rampage Youth Organization. It's a soccer club in the state. We have currently, under our membership organization, we have about 17, it varies, anywhere between 1,500 and 1,700 kids that play soccer. And about 30% of those kids are in Hooper. In the soccer world today, what we're facing is a shortage of green grass to play on. Quality green grass. We'll settle for anything. I play on fields in Roy that are atrocious, but we play there because we have to, because there is no space left to play. Soccer is the fastest growing youth sport in the state currently. We see growth within our own club of about 10% a year. The state sees even greater growth than that. We're always in competition for green space. If you would be willing to do this, and I understand it's an offset, right? You give up the less density for higher density for a park that normally the city would have to maintain. This is an opportunity to have the soccer community return to Hooper green space to use. Green space to use. The state will maintain it. The state association will pay to have it maintained. It's a wonderful opportunity. My day job takes me in front of cities all the time. I get the opportunity to stand in front of councils and deal with proposals, trying to get different land agreements passed. And very rarely do we ever see where the city can gain something essentially for nothing. The land is being donated. A separate organization is going to maintain it. They're going to do the infrastructure. They're going to foot the bill to put the park here. And I get it, it's painful sometimes that we have to give up giant lots to see that kind of thing happen. But from somebody who spent the last 20 plus years, you didn't say, hey, idiot.
Hey.
I would appreciate it if you'd at least consider it and take the time to evaluate it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kelly Taylor. I live at 3609 South 500 West in Hooper. I'm building a new house right next to where Brad wants to put this in. I don't want soccer fields in there. I don't want to listen to the kids scream all day long. I go home, I want to have some quiet. And the subdividers will tell you whatever they want to hear to get it. Like the last one that Brad did, the irrigation system. We had it all worked out so it would work right, and it's never worked yet. We're still fighting the irrigation system. They'll tell you whatever they want. The council tells them this is what you got to have. They approve it, and then they put cul-de-sacs that turn around in people's yards instead of on the roadways where they belong. I'd rather see something for the community that's been out here for 30, 40 years, somewhere for horses and trails like that, than these guys that come in and want to build smaller houses, and the city comes in, we have to widen our road now. I got to give up some of my property for the road because the contractors come in and build all these houses. So people's giving up their property and stuff to accommodate these people, and all the subdividers think about is how much money they can make off of it. We already got 2 areas here that's got soccer fields in that. It's time we have something for the equestrian people and stuff. We have walking trails. The people walk in the roads. They don't even use the trails. You got sidewalks in the subdivisions. They walk up the middle of the road. They don't go down the sidewalks. So we need to look at what the other part of the community, not the ones that's moved in that wants half or quarter-acre lots. I don't care if they're half-acre lots or acre lots or whatever, but every time you build a subdivision, them roads get wider and wider, and somebody's got to give up for these people for whatever they want.
Okay, seeing no other public comments, we'll close the public comment part of our agenda and move into our city business. Item A under city business, this discussion on new training requirements for planning commissions and councils. Heather went over that with us during our previous meeting, and so we'll just forego having you review that with us again.
Mayor, may I make a motion that we change our agenda around a little bit? I'd like to move that we move the soccer discussion to our next agenda item and have the job discussion after that, just so we can, because that job discussion could be a while, and it seems like most people are probably here to talk about soccer, so I'd make the motion that we flop item 2 and item 3 on our agenda, if anyone wants to back that up.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to move item C up to item B, and item B down to item C under city business. We've had a motion and a second. Any other discussion on that?
I don't have a problem with that, but I hope it doesn't take us that long because we've got a lot of information and I think we should be able to go over that in a timely manner. So yeah, I don't have a problem with that, but I hope it's not as long as you think it's going to be.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, so we'll move to item C, a concept presentation for a subdivision proposal with soccer fields from Brad Buse and Lewis Myers. Also Michelle Whitson, who will be representing the Utah Youth Soccer Association. And may I just remind everybody that this is just a presentation. That's all it is. There'll be no actions taken. We're just here to view a presentation on this. This does not forego any normal processes as far as development in Hooper City. And the reason this was put on the agenda is because if 2 council members want to have something put on an agenda, they can request that. And so that is the case for tonight. So having said that, at this time we would invite Brad Buse to come up, or Lewis Myers, or both of you, however you want to present this to the group here.
First, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity at least to present this, because it's something that I don't think Hooper's done before, and we want to get kind of a feel for where you are on things and questions and concerns that you have, so we can proceed with it or not. To begin with, I'd like to maybe just turn the time over to Michelle Whitson. She's with the UYSA, Utah Youth Soccer Association, and let her explain to you what their role will be in this situation. Then thereafter, I'll come back up. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Michelle Wixom and I represent Utah Youth Soccer. What our role in this project would be to actually develop and maintain these fields out of pocket from us. This would not require any input from the city, but this would also be an open use park for the city outside of our standard season gaming league. So that means that the public would be free to come use the park for picnics, to hang out, to wander around, and just enjoy that open green space. We collect a $40 fee from every player that is registered in the state of Utah, and that money is then divvied out to the zip code that those players live in, and that's how we want to spend that money. And what's so exciting here is that the cost to build these fields can be paid for by the players that live in this area. So this one is going to be 100% funded by the kids that live in Hooper for the kids to play on that live in Hooper. That means their families' home games are here. Families don't have to drive all the way across into Ogden and Roy to play all of their games. It keeps everybody local, which means that grandma gets to come, grandpa gets to come, and everybody is here. So we're really excited for this project, and we hope that you'll take the time to consider what they're putting forward and to consider that it will keep more people here within the city and allow families to have more space to play. And that's what growing families need. Thank you, guys.
Hey, Michelle,
Yes.
There are some.
You were going to ask me questions. Love it.
Michelle, I have a question. And if you don't know, maybe Jason can give the answer, but Jason referred to the number of kids that were part of that organization, and then I think maybe he was referring to, somebody referred to a number of kids involved, maybe it was Rampage or...
Yeah, so currently registered in a competition soccer program, so this is not going to include your U10 and under kids. Those are all of our little bitties. Those are just considered kind of our recreation kids. Those older kids, we currently had 307 registered players in Hooper as of last week. And so if you add in any of the youngers or the recreations or the academy programs, we're looking at somewhere between 450 to 500 kids. Total. Which is a lot of the kids that are in Hooper.
So are these standard size soccer fields? I mean, regulation size soccer
So we
fields?
would we would have one full-size field, and then the other area would be used for the smaller side fields to allow those younger kids that are in the recreation programs to have a place to play as well.
So what other cities do you have fields and maintain fields in around here? I mean, you've said there's long distances. What are the other cities?
The only cities that we actually are paying currently to maintain the fields are out in Provo, and those are in combination with the Intermountain Hospital. So if your kids have ever had to drive out to play on that beautiful grass field out there, that one is maintained by Utah Youth Soccer.
Okay, so is this a new concept, you coming in and doing this in? So that's the only place you maintain?
So the Legacy Fields program, we started collecting a budget for this 4 years ago. So we're only so far in, and we took that year off for the pandemic because we didn't want to increase fees on people due to financial issues. So this is only the 4th year of our program, which we've attempted to partner with a couple of them. Riverdale City was the last one in this region, and then that landslide came and it caused a lot of issues with the city looking to partner with anybody to put that park in right there.
But currently it's just in Provo?
Yep.
You have one in Provo? Okay. I have a few other questions. So who pays, do you pay for the water? Do you pay for the maintenance? Do you pay for all the upkeep on that field?
Yes. Field striping, goals, maintenance, trimming of trees if we do put in trees and things like that around the area. The only thing that we would ask if the city wants it to be an open use park is if they plowed it in the winter because we don't play soccer in the winter.
Do you have a restroom in that park that you have in Provo? I mean, I can see
No,
that area.
that one has porta potties that are brought in for the season.
Is that what you would do here?
Yeah.
Have you ever considered turf fields instead of grass?
Well, turf is wonderful. The cost of that in this area wouldn't make a whole lot of sense because we'd have to replace it within 15 years, and you'd be out somewhere between $400,000 to $1 million just to put in that one turf field.
But the high schools can do it?
That's
Just kidding.
They can do it, and their fields are so great to play on, but
Yeah.
our little kitties get stuck in grass, so we're hoping to make those some better quality fields.
Can you tell us what your season is?
Yeah, so our season in the spring runs from mid-March through the end of May, and then in the fall, we start the 3rd week of August and run through, normally it's somewhere between October 30th and November 4th.
So mid-March to November 4th is when you're...
Well, we don't play in the summer.
So
They're
you-
tournaments, yep.
So how do you what about maintenance during the summer?
We maintain it the same way we would, and that would allow it to be open use for the public.
So pretty much June, July, August.
Yep.
Three months is wide open for the city use.
And then we play games from about 4:30, 5 o'clock to 8 in the evening. And that's Monday through Friday, and then Saturday we run all day, and we don't run league games on Sunday. So all of those hours outside of our standard time would be open to the public.
So would there be lights?
No.
Are there lights as well?
We wouldn't want to light that field right next to so many houses. That would just be, nobody would like us.
So do you use Hooper City Parks now to practice on or to play on, or?
We do. There's a couple areas in here that have been used. Hooper City isn't the best city to work with to maintain, as we've had to bring in restroom, like the porta potties and things, to have those agreements to use the space. And so part of the reason that we're so excited to partner with is this would allow us to have a space and open up some of this other space for other sports programs.
Are there any other?
Looks like there might be another question.
So 6 months out of the year, you have at least up to 500 kids, parents bringing their cars in and out of that subdivision.
Yeah. A lot of those, I could get the numbers for you if you're interested in an email as to how many of those are same families, so that you could get more of an idea based on a traffic study, how much would be coming in and out.
I think you're trying to get further down the line, but that's something.
Exactly, yeah.
Thank you.
I guess, so have you evaluated the costs and everything to maintain? I guess I'm just kind of concerned about secondary water and a lot of things like that.
Yep, we've done all of that before prior, which is what we actually, how we came across the number to set up for our legacy fields fee. So we had built the program based on those numbers so that we can continually not only maintain the fields that we're developing, but can continue to develop more fields within all of those regions.
So so you say it's funded by the kids in Hooper, so that $40 that they pay yearly
Yes.
goes to maintain the field.
Yeah.
Does any other money come from other?
Yeah, so we are split up into regions, and there's 6 regions across the state, and every single kid pays that money. And while we try to keep all of that money within their actual region, we can then divvy it out from their region into their actual zip code. So there are additional funds that can be put into places, like if we came into Hooper City and we're going, okay, it's actually going to cost us more than we anticipated here, there are going to be more fees associated with X, Y, and Z. They would then budget to pull that from essentially a different account, and then go back in and repay that once those fees have gone. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just one other one. So on parking.
Yes.
We talked about that. Would there be tournaments out here?
No.
Oh, okay.
This one is just a 2-field complex. Although it may be used for a tournament that's in the area, like there's a local club here, Rampage, if they decide to host one, they may use that as one of their venues. A lot of times they don't because there's only, one field at the location. It makes it a little tricky. And if they did decide to do that, you would just have, the one game every 2 hours. And so you wouldn't have like mass quantities of people. It would still be the same 35, 40 people per 2 hours.
So,
Go ahead,
no,
Cindy.
you go.
So are there any amenities that would draw people to use that park, not during soccer time?
A lot of that depends on what you guys are willing or want to do within that area, right? If you're wanting the walking path and things like that in the area and the trees and the attic, right? So most of this comes down to, okay, what is it that you guys are really looking for your public and the people outside of the soccer community? Because most of what we know is soccer, which means we love big open grass fields. But if there does go, okay, the city, our members and what our people are asking for is X, Y, and Z, how can we incorporate that into this plan? That would be something we would love to work with you guys on.
So, and I have written this down from the little letter that we read. So, what happens if or when the soccer association decides they no longer want to maintain and upkeep? And it seems to me like this kind of is, I won't say experimental because you only have one location now.
Yes.
Because it would be donated to the city, or I guess what's what's gonna happen if it changes hands? I don't understand.
So this is the question as to what you guys are gonna want with that land. If it's donated to us, obviously it's just gonna stay with us and we're gonna maintain it forever because soccer is the fastest growing sport in the nation. We're not getting smaller anytime soon.
Right.
So we're not anticipating dropping maintenance on this ever. We anticipated this program to provide fields, not for us now. We actually didn't anticipate being able to build fields for the first 5 to 10 years. We anticipated having to spend $3 or $4 million per location to buy ground. And that's kind of where our budget is. And so the idea that something could be donated to us and we're just paying to develop it and maintain it is very feasible, and we can go over the financials from that one as we get further down the line.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Just quickly, and I think most of you understand this, I wanted to have some open space, and I didn't see where in the ordinance that it has where it's really promoted very well. The land conservation, open space in chapter 3 has been on the books, I know, probably for 10 or 12 years, and no one's used it. We looked at it and tried to figure out how to use it, and we knew it's going to probably have to be tweaked. And when the soccer people came to us, we thought, free park, free maintenance, open space, but we didn't know how to get Hooper there, so we called Jordan, who was the state property rights ombudsman. He told us about House Bill 409 and said, here's a way it could happen. Basically, we would begin, and we're not even at that point right now, with a development agreement on the front end instead of on the back end, and get all the bugs worked out, and then we'd go through the approval process like any other subdivision with the commission a couple of times, and with the council at least a couple of times. So we just want to get, before we got this whole process involved, we want to just get kind of a feel if there's interest in doing that, because we can just do half-acre lots there, and it'll be just another half-acre lot subdivision with no open space. We do have the option of, with that land conservation, of doing quarter-acre lots, but we would only have about 5 acres of ground available if we did that, and the soccer people are interested in that, and so we're not exactly sure the city would want to put a park there, and with the expense, so we try to find a way where maybe it could happen if something the city wanted to do. So that's kind of how this came about. I think the question has to be asked, if we want open space in Hooper, and how are we going to do it? And we just thought this is a great opportunity where an organization that's well put together and well funded could put in the park, we donate the ground, okay, and they maintain it. And let's say, I think Cindy's question was good, what happens if they fall apart? Well, Hooper owns 7 acres of ground. You can do what you want, you can sell it. Or you could put a rodeo arena in it, for Kelly and them. So, it's the downside is you're going to own 7 acres of ground if they happen to fall apart. I think it's such a growing organization. I don't perceive that happening. So, I've talked to 3 people. Well, I talked to Kelly. Kelly voiced his opinion tonight, which is fine. I'm glad he's here because we want to hear what everyone wants. Larry Christensen would love a park there. Steve Austin lives there. He'd much rather have a park than homes there. I talked to Kim and David Buse. I just talked to Kim, and I'm not exactly sure where she stands, so I don't dare comment where she is. Would be happy. I would think that if you talk to people in the subdivisions to the north, they would love to be able to grab a sidewalk and walk to some open space somewhere, or the kids get on a bike and ride over where there's a park. So that's our intent, and I think really what it really comes down to is, does it make sense to allow about 7 or 8 more lots there, so the city can have a park? that's, I mean, after all is said and done, that's kind of where we're at. I would appreciate you asking me any questions, concerns. I'd like to talk to you all individually and see kind of where you're at, because I don't want to, and we don't want to go down the road too far and say, no, we don't want to. I really try to commit the soccer folks that they're going to stay with us. They're not going to back up the last minute. They're looking for ground, looking for these opportunities everywhere, and I don't know where that stands, but this is before us now. So, if you have any questions or concerns, you know, I'm not exactly sure how we proceed, because I don't know if Reed's had a chance to read that. Have you had a chance to read that bill yet, Reed?
I know I have not.
It's the one that's.
I think the way you proceed, though, is this would require a change in the general plan and then a change in the zoning.
Well, no, if you read the state law now, it allows the cities right now, it's State Bill 409, 10-98-530 development agreements, and they just passed it this year. It allows the city, okay, to, if something comes that they feel will their benefit, then they can make an exception, okay, without being obligated to offer that same opportunity for another developer / landowner.
Well, yeah, it still requires, the general plan wouldn't allow this the way it is now. So you'd have to change the general plan to allow it. And then you'd have to change the zoning to allow it.
Okay, well, that's not how it's explained to us from the state ombudsman, or I'm going to be here tonight, because I asked him if there's a way the city could do it, and this is what he gave me. So that's why we're
clearly
here.
do it. It's just you've got to go through the process.
No, we didn't, no, you don't have to open up the master plan to do it. It doesn't have to be part of the master plan. If you read the bill, if he'd have told me that, we wouldn't take the time. We would just put in half-acre lots, because it'll take us probably a couple of years to get it through that way, and I don't think it makes sense for us to wait that long. So I'd like for maybe you to have a discussion with you, maybe if I'm wrong, or you know, then tell me. But I'm just going off of what.
Well, I guess the question would be if they're doing the master plan or the general plan right now, it would seem that would kind of mesh into that whole process.
Well, it could. Okay, but he told us that it's not required. You know, because so that's something that, you know, we need to find out, because I think the master plan is dated. I think they're still waiting another year before that's going to be through. Is that correct?
Maybe.
Is there a target date to have that finished out?
And then
I
maybe.
didn't hear the question.
What's a target date to have the master plan redone?
You know, on June 1st, they're going to bring in a plan, you know, that's just kind of an overlay of, not necessarily an overlay, but it's just something they're going to present to the city council, a book that's got all everything involved that we've collected, all the information and data that we've collected from the surveys, and put that into a plan. So I think towards the end of the year, the first of next year, it should be ready to go.
So it's going to take about 18, 20 months?
Total. Yeah, maybe total.
Okay, so if that's the main reason I want to come here is to have this discussion and have Reed look at it and see if it's even possible. According to the state property rights ombudsman, he said it can be done. So if we have to wait 2 years.
The question though really is, and I'll have to read the bill to see if you can do it. The point is, when if you have to go back and ask them to open the plan, that would be a whole different story. But if the plan's already open, why would the city want to circumvent what's already in process and not allow the public hearing and the public input that you'd have during that process and go around it? Keep troubling them.
Well, basically it can be done, okay, and basically it's brand new, and so it's something that hasn't happened. I think it's a boon for the cities. If something comes to the city that you want to do, and say it's something other than this, you have to wait 5 years for a master plan, and another, 18 months to get it completed, and then another year to get it approved. By then, the soccer people have found, another piece of ground. And so if there's something the city wants to do, they can legally, according to, it will always explain to me, it can legally be done at any time. Now, if the city chooses, we want to wait for the master plan to get completed, those people, you folks will vote on that, okay? But that's why I wanted to present it tonight to see where that would be.
So I agree with Reed. I mean, no better time than when the general plan's open to discuss a topic like this. I mean, to get public input is invaluable on something like this. Do you want it? Do you not want it? What could we do better? What could it look like? I mean, that's why we do a general plan. And I mean, what a great opportunity to have that discussion is right now. While you're trying to push this. I mean, not push it, but develop this concept. So I mean, that makes sense to me. Should be a general plan topic of discussion, I would think.
And if that, I'm gonna have to talk my point. If that's right, you want to go. I think we're dead in the water.
So I guess the question would be that I look at is I get the general plans open right now, and it's getting public feedback. I think you're going to get public feedback either way, because it's a long process. If this was ever to even get approved, we'd have meetings and public discussion, and it would have to go through a lot of hoops, right? I guess my question is, when we talk as a group up here, if it's a legislative body, is there interest of Hooper City to do things like this, whether it's this or something else? Is there interest for us as a city to gain property and change certain things, or is that just like, it's off the books? I don't know, because I've talked to a few of you. I don't know how I feel on it, but I think that's the discussion to be had tonight. Is there interest for that moving forward? If there is, then let's, if they're still interested, let's find out what the community feels about it.
Well, and that's why I like the concept, is because how else is the city going to obtain open space?
Yeah.
Short of buying it on our budget, how do you obtain open space other than working with a developer in this concept or buying it outright? What's the other options? I can't think of any, right?
Right, and you and I mean, we talked briefly, but my when I hear the citizens speak, for our town and open space, it was interesting because I was quizzing my wife today before I left, and I was trying to run things through her and said, you're a citizen of Hooper, right? But she is. And so I was talking, I said, what does open space mean to you? And it was interesting because we have different opinions in my house on what open space means. Surprise, right? In your own house. And so we talked that through a little bit, and we said, well, is open space parks? Is open space pastures? Is open space acre lots? What makes open space? And so as we talked that through, it was interesting because there's some different, if we polled each of us, right, probably our definition would be different. I said, do you like acre lots that are run down and look like it's a junkyard? Well, not if I live next to it. Like for me, I don't like curb and gutter. I think curb and gutter takes away from open space or the country feel, right? But you have to have certain things for the city to function and to drain land water and all those things. So there's a lot of variables that come into this whole thing. I think that, Ryan, you're right, though. The question is, and it's a great discussion to have, during this period of time. It doesn't help out, these folks much as far as timeline, but the reality is, what are we going to do for the future to have open space? Because, there was a thing on last night, hey, somebody's selling 100 acres for $5 million, and I can't believe it, we're going to lose. Well, I don't know if any of those citizens were willing to go write the $5 million check to own the land and keep it filled. Probably not, because none of us, I don't have it. And then I thought, let's figure out what taxes on that would be. Let's say taxes were 30 or 40 grand a year. What if I inherited that? Would I have 30 or 40 grand a year to pay the taxes on the 100 acres that Dad left me when he passed away? No.
Okay, so do you have any questions? Any more questions for Brad, and then we can bring the discussion among the council rather than just have Brad standing there while we're discussing things.
I'm happy to stand if you want, or I'll go sit down, or I'll leave.
I'd be glad not to share my thought anymore, if that's where you're at, Mayor.
I do have a question.
I do too.
For Brad, okay, so maybe we can direct them, and then we can bring it back to the council for discussion.
Go ahead, Cindy.
So this just kind of refers a bit to the development that you outlined here. And I just have it on my computer. I see the mayor has a hard copy. I just had a couple questions on that. Can I see your, no, that thing. That right there, yeah. So this is correct. You had, I guess I'm confused.
Can I come up and look at that?
Absolutely, absolutely. So where is your stub street from Morning Meadows?
Okay, this road does not exist. Okay, right now, Silver Saddles is putting a stub road right here as required by the city. It's not there yet. Jay Thompson's property.
Okay, and that, I guess, was my question. So does that make sense, having a stub street go into a soccer field?
I don't think so.
But it's gonna be there because
Yeah.
it's required. I
Yeah.
mean, and that's been approved.
Yeah, exactly, and that's, I mean, we can't have everything, but when you ask me if it makes sense, I guess people can park there.
Yeah, I don't,
You know,
yeah, I doubt people that live there
yeah.
would want to
Well,
park
no.
in there.
We don't have all the engineering done yet.
Okay,
This is potentially would be a storm detention pond, and that
Okay.
would go out through that road. Okay,
the easement or the access to that?
yeah, so in other words, this would be city-owned street, and then you'd run like you do almost in all subdivisions, the storm drain to go out that road.
Okay, so it's right there. Okay.
Yeah, but one thing we were gonna look into, and I don't know if it makes sense or not, where there's all that open space,
You may want to talk in the microphone to
Okay.
everybody.
where you have all that open space, right there, i.e. a soccer field, I don't know why you couldn't let it take on the storm water and biofilter the storm water in the soccer field. I think that would be a possibility, but that's down the road. So, or we put in a detention base, but it makes sense to biofilter that water and keep it there. When you've got that big of an area, there are some subdivisions, one is Mayor Slaterville, that's what they do. Whether work here or not, you have the engineers have to figure that out.
Okay, so also, it showed some pickleball courts on that concept, right?
Yes.
So when, is that, you can request that the soccer people, obviously they're not gonna come in and build everything you say, I want this, I want this, I want this.
With this plan, we were gonna put in a pickleball courts and just donate it to the city,
When you say we, the developer?
the developer,
Okay,
yeah. That'll be part of the development agreement.
Okay, that answered that question. My kids live in one of these very small developments, and the narrow frontage of the lots and the small lots, there's never sufficient parking. Were you planning on any, I mean, you gotta figure 2 vehicles per unit at
Well,
least.
there'll be a 2 or 3 garage units there.
2 or 3?
And that's something that we could mitigate with a development agreement. You say, okay, all the homes, they're gonna have 3 or 4 cars there, we don't want them parked in the street all the time. They say, if you want 3-car garage, we entertain that requirement. We don't want a bunch of cars parked in the street. Okay, so typically the front yard, and there's not much grass, it's usually just a wide driveway.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and a lot of them, you can't even park a car between the sidewalk and the house without the car hanging into the sidewalk, which totally bugs me. But that's just, anyway.
Well, it's because the house is too close to
Correct.
the street.
Correct.
These would have the same setbacks, I think, as most homes in Hooper require setbacks.
I guess that was my
What will be small will be the backyard. The backyard will be pretty small. We're not going to force people to come out and buy small lots.
Right.
People that want to do it will buy them. If no one wants to buy them, then it won't happen, but it happens. There are plenty of people like that. Plus, they'll have access to a 6.5 to 7 acre park in the backyard.
So is this being developed, are you saying this is going to make more affordable housing in Hooper. I know that's kind of the catchphrase now. We have to have more affordable housing.
You know,
I think affordable housing is, I don't think any housing is affordable right now.
I totally agree with you. I mean, I don't know, I think one thing that the city's done that's good is you're allowing mother-in-law apartments. Okay, instead of building a bunch of apartment complexes, you got a mother-in-law apartment, and I think that helps mitigate some of the, even though it may be rented, you know, that helps. But as far as affordable housing, when I was in the council, we did quarter-acre lots there, east of Freedom Elementary. Thought we were taking care of that. They cost every bit as much there as the ones that did down at, the old State Farm. So it didn't work.
Right, so you're not doing these, you're not going to say, we're building affordable housing?
No.
Okay.
No, we're just gonna build, homes more or less like the adult community in Hooper that look somewhat like that. That's our conception of it right now anyway. So the houses are close together, but people that buy them don't care. People that live a quarter of a mile away don't care either. They're happy because there's a park there.
So Brad, I just had a question about the math, I guess. From the plat, it shows 36 lots
Yes.
conceptualized there.
Uh-huh.
So that's including the additional 7 that would require to be
No,
added?
that's a total of 36.
So the 7 additional lots?
Basically, if
It
we
is included.
utilize the overlay ordinance, we get about 28 or 29 lots according to the ordinance.
Which is half acre zoning, correct?
Yes, that's half acre zone with the overlay on it. Okay, I can explain that to you if you want. But
So that's, is it a 14-acre field?
14.3 acres. We don't have it surveyed yet, but that's what the county says.
So here's the math I come up with. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I come up with about 15 acres. So if you take the 7 lots from 36, you get 29 lots, times half an acre, that's 15 acres. So if you add the additional 7 lots to the 29 to get the 36 in that same math and do the division, you come up with between a 1/3 acre and a 0.4 acre lot with 7 additional lots, not a 0.15.
Oh, but there's no open space. There's no set up. Right now, it's 6.8 acres is what it looks like when we donated. We don't know exactly what that is. But with that math, you gotta take up the 6.8 acres.
So the actual spot that the homes are on are only 8 acres. 36 homes on 8 acres.
Correct.
Okay.
Along with the street. Uh-huh.
Okay.
The street takes like 20%, right?
Roughly.
Roughly.
Yeah. So it's, that's a lot more dense than what we thought, or what we imagined.
They're about 6,600 square foot lots.
It's about the same lot size as in the.
Almost identical to the ones over here. If you want to see, get a visual of it.
Like Hooper Water?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was, I think,
They're about a 1/5 acre.
it looked about the same.
Yeah.
It really would. The only difference would be a little park behind it. And we're going in a couple of pickleball parks that, park, let's see.
The only other thing I had was we had 2 fields, one regulation size for the older kids and one smaller one. I don't know what the age cutoff is for the smaller ones, but would it make more sense to have 2 larger fields? I mean, you look out here and that's all we have is the larger fields. When they play the smaller, they have to put up the cones and whatever to play. I don't know is there demand for the smaller field, or would it make more sense to have two bigger fields?
I don't know the answer to that. So if you want to ask Michelle, she's got all the data. Did you hear that? You want to answer that question?
So there is a really high demand for the younger age fields. That's why we actually looked at this space and we're like, great, let's put a full-size field in that'll accommodate X amount of games, and a smaller size field, which would then accommodate X amount of games at the same time and allow less people at the venue so that instead of having to run, what we would normally do is 4 small-sided games on 2 large fields, which then increases the amount of people that come via traffic to that area. And we would want to keep that a lot lower. So running 1 small side at the same time as 1 bigger game keeps our parking a lot less and a lot less people coming in and out.
Okay, thank you.
And it looks like from the numbers, there's about 200 kids that would, in Hooper right now, that live in Hooper that would play on the smaller field, and about 300 youth that would play on the larger field based on the numbers she gave.
Okay. What's the age cutoff? 6, 7?
For the little field?
Yeah,
That one, they're 10.
10. Okay, thanks.
Well, how old are you when they start?
Well, they start academy from 5.
We're still on the little field for what you were here.
Yeah.
So they'll be about
11. Yeah. So they're like, on those smaller fields, you'll run kids from 8 to 11, and then we would break that small one into 2 smaller, and that would be your 5, 6, 7-year-olds.
Okay, thank you.
So just one other question on, are you talking, would this be an HOA?
Well, we're not exactly sure. If it were an HOA, the park would probably be included with the HOA just for irrigation purposes, to keep that simpler. So Hooper Irrigation would only have 1 bill, and then any water they use for the small lawns in each home, okay, they would probably pay that association would pay the city. But I don't know for sure, Cindy, how that would work. It is an option. We could do an HOA and not have a public park.
Well, I just,
But I want a public park, because I want the citizens to use it.
you just referred to the other one over here, and I believe that's an HOA.
Yes, it is.
So that's,
Yes, it is.
that's why I question.
See, one idea, and it's just an idea, don't hold me to this, is one thing nice about an HOA, we could mandate and make all the front yards really nice, and they could be maintained by a maintenance crew. Maybe the same crew that the soccer organization is using, so they come in, mow the park, trim whatever they got to trim, mow the little pieces of ground, so people live there don't have to buy a lawnmower for just a little small piece, or we got 7 or 8, contractors mowing it. I think it makes sense if we could do it. Whoever maintained the soccer, maintain their yards, and if that happens, it'd probably be best to have an HOA. But I don't know for sure on that. Okay, but if it were an HOA the way I want to do it, and I still want the public park. We could say, no, we want this to be a private park, only the citizens of the community could use it. Well, Lewis and I don't want that. We want it to be for the surrounding area. So that's the route we want to go.
Any other questions?
Okay. Sit down, you guys. If you have any more questions, or you want to call me, try to give you an idea. It's just conceptual, so you understand.
What's the bill number of the bill you're looking at?
Say, Brad.
Yes.
So the one thing that is probably, critical for us in this decision making is we just want to know if the council feels like this is the direction you want to go. Because if it is, then we'll keep pursuing it. If you feel like we're barking up the wrong tree and we're going to have to wait for the master plan and everything else, we're not going to wait for 2 years. This opportunity will be gone. And so we just want to get a feel for where you are so we can make a decision whether we want to go forward or...
Well, I think one thing that would be critical is to have a public hearing. See, everyone in that neighborhood, no one was really notified of this meeting tonight. No one has ever really looked at any type of concept plan or anything like that. So we would want a public hearing, as Brad indicated and as you're indicating. Is this something the public really wants? Do the citizens of Hooper want something like this, even in that neighborhood over there? So that's something we would want to address, to notify all the neighbors over there and have a public hearing on it.
Well, we're actually going to have several of those when we go through planning commission, when we go through city council. It's
Right.
going to be a public meeting every time. Right, so it's not like we're bypassing that. It's, you know, you're the decision makers, so we wanna get an idea of where you're going to fall before all that trouble happens.
I guess that's what we can't do.
That's kind of the purpose of public hearing, is so they can help them decide.
So actually, we can do that. We can do that in our general plan meetings. Make this a topic of conversation in our general plan meetings. And let public people input on it. I mean, we can do that without going through the process, right? Because we're in the middle of general plan right now.
Correct.
5 years from now, we won't be.
May I say something? Our last subject, it took us 2.5 years, okay? So we're to get final approval. So right now, we're a year out, maybe a year and a half before the master plan's done. You add 2.5 years onto that, it's 5 years out.
But at least you'll know. You have a conversation next time they meet for the general plan, which is when, Cindy? 2 weeks?
June 1st.
June 1st. You get a consensus of the people that are here on June 1st. Hey, do we want soccer fields? I mean, you're going to have a pretty good idea how people feel about it.
And we actually have had a lot of input on open space, and I'm one that's all for open space, but I think it's really complicated. And one of the biggest things that has come out of the meetings is they want a connected trail system as far as open space, and that's one thing. But this has never been brought up, so.
Well, the challenge is who's going to pay for those trails?
I-
And then who's going to maintain them?
I'm just saying this is what the people want, this is the
I know.
opinion it expressed, so yep, there's all those questions.
I would just like them to understand that, you know, if you want large lots, there's no open space and no parks. The math's not there.
Can we have Brad, can we have you come back up to the mic, just because our recorder's trying to record, and she's like, I'm not gonna have anything.
Well, okay, so where are we on this presentation? That's what, are we done with the presentation, or, because that's all this was tonight. It's not a public hearing on this or any, time to make decisions. We were just to have a presentation.
Yeah.
So where are we on that then?
I think it's time to discuss it.
I have one more question though, and this is just me being naive and not being around when the first deal was happening with the subdivision. But why go to the smaller lots? I know you have to take some of the land away for the open space, for the fields, but why make the lots that small?
Well, it goes back down to, when I was in the council, one of the council members said, well, I want you to know right now I'm for farmers. And they says, are you for farmers when they want to sell their ground? Because when they sell their ground, they want to get a fair price. Okay? So they pay $1 million for a parcel of ground, and you do all the math. In most cases, there's not anything there with half-acre lots or acre lots or any open space whatsoever. Unless people want to pay $300,000 or $400,000 for a lot. Okay? So it comes down to this, and when we ask the people if they want open space, then how are you going to get there? The only way I know of, okay, is to allow some smaller density in given areas to allow the farmers to get a fair price, the developer to get a deal, and the community to get open space. If you want large lots and open space, it doesn't work. So when people say, well, I want open space, my question is, how is the city going to do it? Okay? It wouldn't bother me at all. If we could put acre lots there and still have this park there, fine. Okay? There are a lot of people out there that don't want an acre lot. And they're buying places all over the state of Utah. I like an acre lot on my place, to be honest with you. I really do. And I bet you do, Lisa. But a lot of people don't want it. Right now, though, I've got about 1.25 acres, and I wonder what I'm going to do with all that ground. I thought I got to get everything done because it makes it hard to maintain. But that's a question. Open space, how do you get there? And you can't do it with large lots. Unless the city's got big pockets, can buy the ground for parks. So that's,
Thank you for answering that.
yeah.
I said, this was a presentation tonight, it was put on the agenda because 2 council members wanted it on the agenda. And it's just a presentation. It's not, there's no decisions to be made. It's just to hear what they would like to present.
I think it's a great lead into a discussion for the general plan, you know? I mean, great topic to talk about.
I think clearly your general plan needs to address these kind of issues, no question
Absolutely.
about it. And it's gonna be a real interesting discussion when people start talking about smaller lots. On the other hand, we do want, I think, some affordable housing within the city. Maybe there's a way to do that. So I think there are a whole lot of interesting issues here. But in my view, it's perfectly timed because the request is coming right when the process is in place to give the people a chance to determine what they want.
Well, and I think time-wise, we could give feedback sooner than a year and a half.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether or not it's viable. I mean,
Absolutely.
I would assume that.
Absolutely true.
Yeah, there's no question about that. It won't be a year and a half. It won't be. I don't know. I mean, we've already, I think there's a lot of, come June 1st, you'll see there's been a lot of progress made towards this amendment to the general plan.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Okay. All right, well, we thank you for that presentation and
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Gals.
okay, next on the agenda is to finalize a job description for the Hooper City Community Development Coordinator. So I think everyone received a copy of the job description that we've been able to you've been able to review that. If you have any questions, we had Councilman Hill wrote some suggestions on for a Hooper City planner, and so what's your thoughts?
Combine the two and post it.
Combine the two and post it.
Yeah.
You know,
Done and done.
I agree. You know,
I couldn't agree more.
in fact, Ryan, I think if we compare the two and do, that's just what I was starting to do.
Just mix them together. Just let's go.
All I got was that I don't qualify, so.
Ryan sent that out.
I sent you a copy. Also.
Today.
Yeah, that was good.
So that
So
was great,
if we could,
great discussion.
So if there is a discussion on whether it's part-time. I think, Ryan, we talked a little bit about, I mean, I guess my 2 cents is I think it should be a full-time gig. But
Well, my only concern is if you advertise a 30-hour-a-week job versus a 40-hour-a-week job, you're going to get a whole different type of applicant, you know,
Yes.
and even a qualified applicant to that extent.
so
And so I'm concerned about the hours
So,
we're offering.
right, so we have a 4-day work week here in the city. So they get full-time benefits and all that are included with this. It's just a 32-hour week.
So, I mean, it shouldn't matter the hours based on that it's a salary position, correct?
Right, it's a salary position.
Salary.
So if you pay the salary position at a 40-hour pay period, then I think you're good.
It's the
Well, as
one-
long as the salaries are in line with what needs to be paid for that kind of work.
Right.
We don't want it to be low and then have nobody qualified, really qualified, and find out they're
Yeah, I can do
an
it.
axe murderer.
Do you want this?
So that's what my 2 cents is that I think that we need to make sure that we're in line with what is being paid for the going rate for that. We're not, you know what I'm saying?
We need to be competitive.
We need to be competitive.
That was one of the things, I called Ryan on my way home from work tonight, and my question was, looking at dollar range. So look, I don't live in city employment, but I live in the private sector, and right now I know that people that I could hire for $14 and $15 an hour are sitting home collecting unemployment, waiting to get paid $19 and $20 an hour. And so when I look at a position that's going to require a 4-year degree, that's going to require a whole lot of knowledge of a baseline to come in, starting out at $19 an hour, I feel like $19 an hour, 32 hours a week. paying someone very much money. I don't know, maybe the city's higher at that wage, but I think when you look at a 40-hour week, so $20 an hour at a 40-hour week, right, is a little over $40,000 a year.
And you come in with a 4-year degree.
Coming with a 4-year degree. Now, I don't know where people are at these days, but I can't imagine you can hire a law
That's a
student.
teacher salary.
But they work 9 months out of the year,
Right.
right?
Let's not go there.
Well,
Yeah,
but I'm not,
Let's, yeah, I'll bring my wife down next
some
week.
experience, we take into consideration some experience that they've had too.
Yeah.
The one thing I wanted to mention is, we've talked about,
Yeah.
a building official. So we have a person that's, working for the city right now that has passed his, test in electrical and construction, foundations. He also works in, make sure the compression tests are right for the roads. So we do have someone that has an interest in moving up in his, not only experience, but he's taking training and passing off tests
to become an inspector?
to become an inspector. And but also, not only is he an inspector, but if he was ever needed to go out and, jump in a snow plow, or because he's experienced at that, he does all the road work now. He's also experienced with our sewer system. So my thought would be, why would we go outside and hire someone that would do a lot of those same things that he has shown an interest in, and just called me tonight and said on the 18th he passed off his electrical test. So he can actually start doing some of our reviews now,
Well, that was the whole idea, was to try and get as much in-house as possible,
Sure.
regardless of who it is. As long as they're a city employee, we're trying to avoid all this contracting out, all these things
Yeah,
we're doing.
yeah, that was the
So
main